In this lesson, we will summarize the nation's developing foreign policy with France, Great Britain, and Spain, explain how the United States dealt with Native Americans and with British interests west of the Appalachian Mountains, and identify some of the deep divisions between Federalists and Republicans. The events in Europe are going to sharply divide the American public opinion in the late 18th century. One of those events is the French Revolution. There was a split reaction to the French Revolution in the United States. Federalists were pro-British, which means they preferred Britain. Democratic Republicans were pro-French, which means they preferred France. Washington declares neutrality and will not support either side. A young French diplomat named Edmond Genet makes things more difficult when he violates diplomatic protocol and tries to recruit Americans to support the French rather than simply coming to deal with the Washington administration. Another issue with foreign policy had to do with a treaty with Spain. Spain negotiates a treaty with Thomas Pinckney, who is the U.S. Foreign Minister to Great Britain, over some differences with Spain over the Florida border. They signed Pinckney's Treaty, or the Treaty of San Lorenzo. Spain is going to give up its claims to the western United States, and the Florida and U.S. boundary will be set at the 31st parallel. The Mississippi River will also be open to U.S. traffic, so American ships will be able to use the port of New Orleans easier to expand west. Fights in the Northwest. One of the foreign policy issues that they dealt with in the Washington administration was difficulties with the Native Americans. Native Americans did not accept the Treaty of Paris. They demanded direct talks with the U.S. government. In 1790, the U.S. Army clashes with a confederacy of Native American groups led by the Miami tribe chief Little Turtle, pictured here, over the area that will become present-day Ohio. Native Americans win the battle and continue to defeat the federal troops. At the Battle of Fallen Timbers, General Anthony Wayne defeats the Miami Confederacy. The Miami is forced to sign the Treaty of Greenville, which will get them payment for their land, but they will get less than the actual value. This will be a beginning of the pattern for the Native Americans. The land will be purchased from them by the U.S. government, but for a fraction of what the land is worth. Jay's Treaty. Chief Justice John Jay makes a treaty with Great Britain, which angers some Americans, especially Western settlers. The British agree in this treaty to evacuate the posts in the Northwest, and they are allowed to continue their fur trade from Canada. Adams provokes criticism. In 1796, the first party-based elections are held. Federalist John Adams is elected president. He is seen here. But the Democratic Republican Thomas Jefferson is elected vice president. The president and the vice president are from differing political parties. This is the result of sectionalism, placing regional concerns above the nation. This is also because, back during that time period, the person who got the most votes was elected president, and the person who got the second most votes was elected vice president. President and vice president did not run as a ticket as it does today. Adams tries to avoid war. The French see Jay's treaty with Great Britain as a violation of the alliance, and they seize U.S. ships. In the XYZ affair, French officials demand a bribe from the Americans to even talk about the problems with their foreign minister. In turn, as a response, Congress creates the Navy Department and strengthens the Navy. Washington is called to lead the army and make preparations in case they are needed. An undeclared naval war rages between France and the United States for 2 years. The Alien and Sedition Acts. Many Federalists were afraid that the French were trying to overthrow the U.S. government secretly. Federalists became very suspicious of immigrants during this time period because many immigrants were Democratic Republicans and were very critical of President John Adams. The Federalists pushed the Alien and Sedition Acts through Congress. The Alien and Sedition Acts the Sedition Acts made it illegal to write, print, utter, or publish anything against the U.S. government, as seen here. The Alien Act allowed the president to have foreign residents removed from the United States. It permitted deportation and even jail, and made it more difficult for aliens to attain citizenship. Some Democratic Republican editors, publishers, and politicians were jailed using the Sedition Act, saying that they were criticizing or hindering the government. The Democratic Republicans responded with the Kentucky and Virginia resolutions. Basically, Jefferson and Madison are going to push for rights to declare federal laws unconstitutional. They see the Alien and Sedition Acts as a misuse of power. The Virginia and Kentucky resolutions call the acts a violation of the First Amendment right of free speech. And they advocate a policy of nullification, which says that states have the right to void laws that they see as unconstitutional. Washington dies December 14, 1799, after catching a severe cold and possibly pneumonia. He is buried with a military funeral at Mount Vernon, his home in Virginia. Washington's death actually improved relations with France after Napoleon Bonaparte ordered 10 days of mourning in the French armies for the American leader, in hopes to lure the American friendship away from the British and to make them friendlier with the French.